To give you an idea of just how chaotic my D&D campaigns have actually been, I once drove a cheesemonger completely out of business. I took all of his produce, drove him to the point of despair, which in turn started a domino effect that ignited a war between me and a beaver colony, in which I then became their sworn enemy. And that was just in one session.
Here's the thing. We're a team of thieves. And when you do this, you're bound to make enemies. Sometimes those enemies come looking for revenge.
Whether ye be bards, barbarians, druids, paladins, welcome to my channel. It's time for another episode of Luke's Reviews, and let's hope that this new movie rolls a nat 20 for great success, rather than a nat 1 for embarrassing failure. This is my review for Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. After recently breaking out of jail following a heist gone very badly wrong, Chris Pine's Edgin and Michelle Rodriguez's Holger are on a quest to avenge those who betrayed them and reclaim what was lost. Along the way, a haphazard wizard, an untrusting druid tiefling, and a stone-faced paladin join their cause in the hopes of regaining Edgin's daughter, as well as saving the people of Neverwinter. Dungeons & Dragons is a property that is sorely overdue for a proper live-action adaptation. However, it is worth pointing out that there is no set story behind it. There's a fleshed out world, and those that populate it, but the story is left for those who play to create it. Therefore, making a film could be considered quite tricky, because inherently, you might run the risk of just making a run-of-the-mill fantasy film, right? Well, in an effort to make it stand out, hiring the directors of Game Night, Jonathan Goldstein and John Francis Daley, was a pretty strong start, and then on top of that, you get a wonderfully talented and immensely charming ensemble too. Yeah, I'd say things were going pretty well. Yes, folks, Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves is a heck of a lot of fun, and a movie that I really strongly recommend going out to the movies and seeing. If you're after a true swashbuckling fantasy adventure, then this will deliver that in bucket loads. Whilst it may not be a perfect film, it has all the trademarks of a quintessential summer blockbuster that can entertain audiences no matter the age. It's that type of entertainment that you'd really be hard pushed not to enjoy. Chris Pine leads the way with yet another charismatic performance under his belt. We know now whether it be action or comedy, or even having a little sing-song, he can do it all, solidifying himself, at least in my opinion, as Hollywood's #1 Chris. As for Michelle Rodriguez, it was nice to see her get a change of character other than just screaming after Dominic Toretto all the time. And she really brought her A-game here. Her chemistry with Chris Pine is really strong, and she nails some of the comedic beats too. Justice Smith and Sophia Lillis' characters were slightly less developed than I would have hoped, but each give good performances and their characters get at least one big moment to shine. Now, if you're expecting a lot of Regé-Jean Page, then I'm sorry to disappoint you and tell you that he's not in the film all that much. But his scenes are a particular standout because of just how serious his character is and how that contrasts with the slight jovial nature of our main group. Hugh Grant is also having tremendous fun in this villainous role, and keep your eyes peeled for a cameo that came definitely out of the blue. There's plenty of action to keep you entertained. Now, it may be your typical fantasy action, but it does lean into fun elements from the game, whether it be Easter eggs of certain creatures, or objects our characters use, or even just the fact that some of the plans and fights go disastrously wrong. as if someone had rolled a nat 1 for that move. It's also really funny too. Dungeons & Dragons is going to rank easily among the best comedies of 2023. The laughs are incredibly consistent, much of them are poking fun as to how silly this world can be, and there is one sequence involving resurrected corpses that had me full on barely laughing. I was also really happy to see so many practical sets and creatures. The team could have easily just CGI'd so much of this, but having real sets, real practical creatures inhabiting the world with these actors just makes this universe so much more tangible. Switching over briefly to my negatives now, if we get a sequel, I really hope that we are able to take the time to explore more of this world. I definitely feel like this was a beginner's introduction because the world building is pretty sparse. So given the time, it would be nice to just explore more of the world, more of the communities, like you get the opportunity to in the games. Also, some of the visual effects aren't wonderful. It's quite obvious when there's green screen, and in terms of the actual CGI, it can either range from like relatively decent to quite cartoonish. And finally, it can appear quite rushed when trying to tell this story. The film quite literally opens with a clunky exposition drop, and I totally get that it's a means to an end to just get an idea of where these characters are when we start the story and who they are and the adventure that they're about to embark on. But yeah, I mean, it is almost a case of everything else just stops and we are spoon-fed some information. From then on, it moves at a very consistent pace. It just could have done with tapping on the brakes ever so slightly, because just like a campaign, its structure is very much from point A to point B. You've got to collect something from point C, and then you've got to talk to someone in point D before finally being awarded something in point E, to then finishing your goal all the way over in point F. Whilst it works as a game, it can come off poorly in a film, if not structured quite correctly, and I think for a sequel, I would like there to be a bit more of a streamlined story. But my negatives of the film really haven't clouded my judgment on what is a rollicking good time at the movies. Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves has almost all an audience could ask for when seeking out entertainment. Great action, fantastic humour, charismatic leads, and most importantly of all, a genuine sense of fun. I really look forward to the next adventure with this crew. So I'm going to give Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves a 7.5 out of 10. Anyway guys, those were my thoughts on Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves. Have you had a chance to see the film yet? What did you think? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And my question to you, I want to know, have you ever played Dungeons & Dragons before? What's your character? What kind of campaigns have you been on? Let me know. But that is all we have time for here today. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Hello, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have, make sure to click that like button, and if you aren't already, click that subscribe button too.